you need to know why it is you're teaching something. Otherwise, it's just kind of pointless. You're just going through the motions. The first question you've got to ask whenever you're teaching is, A, why are you teaching what you're teaching? So you need to just basically say, well, why am I teaching the paradiddle? Why am I teaching a major scale? Is that actually the best thing to start with guitar, or should I be teaching pentatonic?
Yeah.
I was taught the major scale first, but is that what I should be doing? Should I start with C, or should actually we be going into minor, because minor is used more within X, Y, and Z, and it makes more sense. Look, this is all completely hypothetical.
Yeah.
But do you see what I'm saying? So going, why is it you're teaching what you're teaching? Why do the drum teachers always teach a groove for the first lesson? Why do we do that? Why did the old school drum teachers actually just talk for the first lesson? Why is it that you're doing what you're doing? That's the first thing that you've got to answer. And like I said, we have an ethos in the way of teaching, i.e. how we deliver it, but the why needs to come from you, and it needs to come from the student.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know why you're doing something, how could a student possibly go away and practice it and understand why they should be doing it? Okay, so that's the first thing that's really important to understand here, is that you need to know why it is you're teaching something. Otherwise, it's just kind of pointless. You're just going through the motions because you were taught it before, or you've got the old. I remember the guitarist way book that I had. It's just like it's the first thing you open to teach with because it's what you had when you first started, and it's kind of a nonsense way of teaching. So then once you've established that, you need to figure out then kind of how you're going to teach that material, right? So what do you guys think the most common thing that especially a beginner teacher does to teach something? What do you think their approach is to teaching?
Demonstrating, I guess.
Yeah. Why is that maybe not necessarily the best thing to do?
Because you're directly like instructing them. You're not it's the same thing we said sort of during the interview. You're presenting it to them. You're not sort of getting them to do it, I guess, if that.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to find the sheet. Callum, did you have anything else to add to that?
I'll say example potentially. So coming with a track and being like, okay, so like I did in my video, this is what I'm going to teach you today. Here it is in practice. Here it is being played in a song. Here it is. This is what we're going to learn, and then breaking it down from there. Okay, cool. And that's not a bad introduction to things. So generally what you're referring to there is kind of audio visual for them to watch a video of it. Okay, yeah, and then you're gonna do it. And what do you guys think? I'm gonna say, Luke, in fact, hold fire on this because we might have just discussed this. What do you think is the best way to solidify information that you're learning for the student? What's the best way? What's the highest retention rate? What's the thing that you can get them to do that? Get them to not only do it, but like write it down in like being able to score it, being able to understand it a bit more in depth,
Okay, cool.
Instead of just going, play it for me once, they play it for you once, they might just walk away and forget that immediately.
Cool. And by writing it down, what could they do further with that, Luke? Like when you've written it down, what can they do with that? Obviously that helps just to solidify it.
Teach it to someone else.
Cool. Okay. So I'm just gonna get this. This is called the learning period. You'll get a copy of this afterwards. I kind of wanted to brand it. This is all of the stuff we use. We try and use with our stuff on it. So here again, as it says here, a big asterisk: average student retention rates. Okay. There's going to be crazy people in the world that have got amazing memories, and in a lecture they can retain 90% of the information, right? Because their brain works like that. This is for the average student. This is not for every student exactly, but it gives you a really good understanding of how we as human beings holistically learn stuff. So if you have a good comprehension of this, it gives you a much better idea when you're teaching how you should structure your lessons. And this is what I'm talking about, how you're teaching. You see here, we're not even talking about like teaching a paradiddle or teaching a groove, or that's a whole separate thing, like what you're teaching. So here you were talking about like, getting them to watch a video. That's kind of here. That's a 20% retention rate, for example. But that doesn't mean that's a bad thing, because they can go back and they can watch that. But this is very much here. We're around this. This here is a YouTube thing. Yeah. And it shows that you don't actually retain that information properly. And some people that can, it doesn't necessarily mean, again, they don't know why they're doing it very often. Okay, so a demonstration, again, this is, you know, very much, both of these are kind of YouTube stuff. Readings here, it's interesting, and there's that thing that Jeff Bezos talks about, like, instead of just reading it, actually have the audio book at the same time when you're reading the book. Retains the information because you're actually hearing it whilst you're reading, and it gives you kind of two of these. It gives you more for your brain to kind of take in and memorize it. Having a discussion on it is pretty good. That's 50% retention rate. Practice by doing is huge, obviously. And then there's teaching others. Now next session I'm gonna go through what's it's called the VARC learning, and it talks about how different people learn visually. So literally V for visual, A for audio or oral, AURAL. Read and write. So some people learn much better that way, despite what you saw there in the pyramid, and some people are just kinesthetic. I've got some students that literally, they get it almost straight away, but they just have to do it like over and 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 over again. And they take ages to learn something. When they've learned it, they do very well. I've got a couple of students I've had in the past where they go into grade exams, for example, they get distinctions. You put them on stage and ask them to jam, no. There's no way, like just no chance they're going to do anything. But if they practice it, so these are different. And so there you need to build on students' strengths and weaknesses and understanding that and filling in the gaps, but also working towards their strengths. And you need to balance that at the right time. So that's really just what I wanted to talk about today. This kind of concept of understanding that is going to link into what we call learn to learn, which basically means teaching the student to teach themselves.
I've noticed that more since you mentioned it. I sort of realized one of the more advanced people I was teaching, we were going through like reharmonization and stuff, and then I've always understood reharmonization in terms of like what you can and can't do, but I didn't fully comprehend it inside and out until I then relayed the information to someone else, so it made it like 10 times more clear. So after we finished our interview, I sort of clocked that. I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense now.
No, it does. And like, I think one of the things that you can be as a teacher, allow yourself to be slightly vulnerable. And I hope I don't sound kind of condescending or what's the word, like I can't think of what the word is, but where it's very much overused, right? And people say this stuff, but you if you don't know something, you don't know something. Even if it's some basics, we all are missing basics somewhere, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I just you can see in the drummer teach drummer sessions, right, Callum, where we've got like 5 drum teachers teaching each other stuff. I know my stuff that I know, and most people can't touch the speed that I can go around the drum kit, you know, at kind of 215 with 16th notes, 2 hits on each drum. People like, that's quite fast for a lot of people. But when it comes to doing doubles and stuff, Phil's is like twice the speed of mine. And he even understands why and how and all of this stuff. So I'm there and I'm listening. And I'm like, cool, that's fine. And I don't care that my students see me learning stuff. Like, everyone learns all the time. And it actually makes your students more comfortable. They feel much more like, oh, cool. Well, you know, if Luke's also struggles with things here and relate it to what you're doing, might be at top level of this thing you're trying to do at the moment, to them learning the very basic pentatonic scale. You show them the scale you're trying to learn where you're struggling, they might go, oh, that's crazy, but break it down and go, look, I can't get this smooth here. Like, where I am with this, it really makes a big difference to how the students respond to stuff. If you're just like, perfect.
It's the whole like cliche. It is a cliche, but it's the whole thing. You never stop.
Words.
It's that whole thing of like, you never stop being a student. As cliche as it sounds, you do never stop learning that.
Exactly it. But I think that when we start to teach and we have students, we feel this like overwhelming pressure of like, we need to know everything. Don't worry about it. What's that, Callum?
Can't get anything wrong in front of a student.
And
no,
like,
you're right.
I just I've stopped caring ages ago, like, because I realized that the second that I did that, I just got more out of my students, and I wasn't stressing about stuff, right? So no, I didn't need to worry about stressing myself or being like, oh man, I need to have this exercise perfect before I teach it. Why? And I've got students now that have far surpassed me in some areas, like way further down the line and stuff, because that's what they chose to put their time and energy into. Like, so it's cool. They come back and they teach me stuff, and it's like, you know, you might have an old-fashioned person go, well, you know what, you're paying for lessons and they're coming to teach you stuff. No, that is the point. Again, I've just pulled this up for parents. The amount of times I've pulled this up and I go, yep, and this is pretty proven.
Yeah.
So yes, that's exactly right. And again, it comes back to, again, a really cliche saying of, you know, Usain Bolt's trainer wasn't faster at running than him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
No, like,
Chocolate couldn't knock out Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's coaching. So you move from teaching somebody the basics of holding the sticks, holding the pick, understanding theory and modes, to then actually getting them to understand stuff themselves and teach themselves stuff. And then what you're doing is you're just looking out for little snags, or you're just there to sometimes motivate.